Well, good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, just before 7:30. Wanted to come up and give you a little bit of an update. Again, we are getting closer to the weekend, and once again, we're tracking another shot of Arctic air. It's going to be even stronger than what we've been dealing with this past Monday and Sunday, and we could even have a few snow showers and maybe some light accumulations in parts of our eastern communities. I'll kind of break that down here in just a second. But again, here's just a sampling of your highs over the next couple of days. 44 later this afternoon after a cold start. 40s Thursday and Friday. Look at Saturday. It may even be colder than that during the day, if I'm being honest with you. Some of our higher elevations not going to get out of the teens. So Saturday, coldest day we'll have. Sunday morning, bitterly cold, and then we slowly start to warm up next week. But look at these overnight lows, and this isn't adding in the wind. The wind chill is going to be absolutely brutal. So Friday, it's going to be a chilly day, not all that bad. Then that cold air starts crashing in, I would say, after about 7 or 8. And by 11 p.m., this is a sample of your wind chill values. 16 in Blue Ridge, 6 in Altamont. Cold in its own right, but look what happens as Saturday continues. By the time we get into 7 a.m., it could feel like -7 in Dayton, -15 in Altamont, -7 in Fort Payne. So here in the valley, Saturday morning, those wind chill values could be anywhere from 5 degrees above freezing to feels like -5, maybe -10 to -15 wind chill values in the Cumberland Plateau and some of the higher elevations. And throughout the day on Saturday, I mean, we're talking wind chill values in the single digits all day long, maybe below 0 in some of the higher elevations. And then Saturday night, once again, we are just talking about wind chill values below 0. So it is going to be cold. The coldest, I've said this multiple times over the last 2 weeks, this is actually going to be the coldest air we've had so far, as the magnitude's going to be a little bit stronger than what we're currently dealing with. Also, there's going to be another aspect of this. So I think the cold is obviously story number one. Story number two, and I was talking about this a little bit yesterday. Again, guidance was all over the place earlier this week, but it does look like there's going to be a coastal low develop, Gulf of Mexico, and then slide up the southeast coastline. Looking a little more likely that we could see some light snow in our area. And I know when you throw out the S word that pertains to winter weather, it can create some feelings, different feelings for different people. But we could have some light accumulation. So I want to let you know, because we're getting closer to time. Again, it's Wednesday morning. We're talking a potential onset of moisture Friday night. So we're what, 60, 66 hours away from this event. So it's time to start talking about it. Here's a look at the possible scenarios. I think this one's becoming more likely based on overnight trends. Low pressure develops likely somewhere off the coast of Florida and then rides up the southeast coastline. Now, the closer it is to the coast, the further west that precipitation is going to get. And this is one of those scenarios where this is going to be an all snow kind of deal for most, just because every single layer of the atmosphere is going to be cold. And we're going to be on the northwest side of this low pressure. So we're not going to get any kind of southerly flow. That flow is going to be coming from the north generally as it wraps around counterclockwise of this low. So we're looking at cold air in the upper level of the atmosphere, in the mid-levels, and all the way down to the surface. When that happens, you have a better chance of seeing all snow. So whatever falls Friday night and Saturday would be snow. Not necessarily heavy, but we'll have to watch this closely. And typically, for every inch of precipitation we get, that is the equivalent of 10 inches of snow. So we're talking a 10-to-1 ratio. Again, I'm not saying we're getting that much snow by no stretch. I'm just explaining the ratios here. But with this system, those ratios would be more in the 15 to 20 range. That's what you would see at northern latitude, so more of a fluffy, powdery snow. And I think the highest impact's likely set up somewhere in the Carolinas. Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Raleigh, maybe even the coastal areas up through the Delmarva into the mid-Atlantic, maybe even the Northeast. If this hugs the coast close enough, this could become more of a classic nor'easter eventually down the road this weekend. There's also scenario 2. Again, we're still days away, so things could change. If this forms further offshore and kind of tracks into the Atlantic, this would be a non-impact. It would just be cold here locally, and that snow threat would still be in the eastern Carolinas. But again, there's also the possibility that there is something that happens in between this. So a little bit closer. Again, the further to the west this thing goes, the better chance we have of seeing some flakes. So we'll keep a close eye on that. And I'll show you 2 of our model trackers this morning. I'm not going to show any kind of totals. I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I'm just showing you the range of possibilities that could happen here. So as we get into Friday, could be some rain early in the day. Cold air crashes down, and that blue indicating snow. So Dalton, Calhoun by 8 p.m. could be getting in on some of those showers. This is our in-house BAMS model. That'll continue Friday night, and notice how it kind of hugs. I used I-75 as kind of a dividing line, but it's easy because it splits our area in half, essentially. So if you're east of that, you'll have a better chance. And the further east you go from I-75, closer to the Blue Ridge Mountains, an even better chance of seeing a prolonged period of some light to maybe moderate snow. That tries to fill back in as far west as Chattanooga, potentially briefly. But I think the further west you go, again, you kind of get out of it. And the further east you go, East Tennessee, Tri-Cities, maybe Knoxville, especially into the Carolinas, you kind of get into those higher impacts. And even throughout the day, this kind of tries to stay into Polk, Monroe, McMinn, Murray, Gilmer, Fannin, Cherokee, Clay counties. So again, there could be some areas that get, a prolonged period, even through Saturday. So we'll have to watch this pretty closely for our eastern communities. And again, the track is going to be the most important thing here. And then by Saturday, still have some snow ongoing. So if, this pans out, parts of the Carolinas could get absolutely hammered. So we'll watch that pretty closely. Here's the reliable European as we get into Friday evening and Saturday, also lofting some of that snow into our area. So again, we have a pretty good agreement that at least the extent of light snow may sneak back into our area. I still think the further east you go, the better chance you'll have. But we'll have to watch this Saturday morning for places like Chattanooga, and maybe longer throughout the day for parts of Polk, Monroe, Fannin, Gilmer, Murray counties. Again, there's likely going to be a pretty sharp cutoff at some point as drier air works in on the backside of this system. But again, look at this. Euro has some really good snow over the Carolinas. So this could be a high impact event for upstate South Carolina, parts of the Piedmont of North Carolina, sand hills of South Carolina, over towards the intercoastal plain of North Carolina. But again, we're kind of on that edge, and with the higher snowfall ratios, it wouldn't take as much moisture to get an inch or two in places like Ellijay or Blue Ridge or Murphy. Again, not putting out any official accumulations, but I do think, light accumulations are possible, an inch or more in some of these areas. So it's going to be something to watch, because if this continues to trend west, we would see that western shield of moisture get further and further to the west. If it trends east, again, places like Chattanooga, Dalton, not even going to see flurries, but still Murphy, Blue Ridge, and Ellijay could. Again, so if you wanted to see snow, you want this low to develop closer to the coast and ride right along the coast, and we would be in a pretty good spot. So, by Saturday evening, things kind of taper off, and then we'd have some northwest flow kicking in. So the Cumberland Plateau and the Tennessee-North Carolina line would get some snow on the back end of this as we get some of that low-level moisture moving through. So with that being said, here's a look at the current 7-day forecast. Again, flurries late Friday into Saturday. I did bump the chance for some light snow up a little bit Saturday. Only a 40% chance for now. That could either go up or down as we get closer to time. We'll either see confidence increasing throughout today and tomorrow, or decreasing. We'll really get a better idea of the track of that low. And I know after last weekend, we kind of jumped on it pretty early. This time we've waited a little further into the week. We're getting closer to time. So again, I don't expect huge changes in this forecast, but again, the track, 100 miles to the east or west could have pretty big implications on us. I do want to note that I believe the most significant impact from all of this is going to be the dangerous wind chills. I mean, it's not every day in the winter, or even every winter, that we have to deal with wind chills potentially dipping below zero. It happens before. If you remember Christmas, I believe it was 2023 when it got really cold, we had wind chill values below zero. Again, it doesn't happen every single winter, but we do need to go ahead and brace for that. It's going to be very cold Friday night, very cold all day Saturday, and very cold all day Sunday. In fact, from Friday night to some point on Sunday, maybe even Monday, we're going to be below freezing. So that's several days. So go ahead and brace for that. Get ready for it. Continue to check back for the forecast because this will change. Again, once we really track or pinpoint that track, we'll know how far some of this light snow could get into our areas. So for now, I do think light accumulations are possible for parts of Polk, McMinn, Monroe, Cherokee, Clay, Fannin, Gilmer, Murray, maybe even Bradley counties. Some flurries further to the west. But again, that could change if this track's a little further to the west. So again, still a lot of details to figure out, but this is kind of the latest I'm looking at. Again, this is recorded, I'm ending this recording Wednesday, the 28th of January at 7:40. So if you're watching this on Thursday, it's outdated information. just to let you know I have a new video tomorrow. Stay safe and stay tuned for the latest.